Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today, instead of doing a vlog style video, this is kind of gonna more lean towards Bookmas, but we're gonna be talking about, every day for the next 12 days, I'm gonna post a video about every book I read in corresponding months, what I rated them and why. If you see me looking down, I have all my little notes written out so I don't forget what I wanted to say, because I tried to record this earlier and I was like, bro, the amount of ums and likes and so's, crazy. So first we have A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I'll put the cover here. This is the first book I read this year, and I gave it 5 stars initially, but we have since dropped it down to 4. And I only dropped it down to 4, which is still a really good rating. It's still a good book. I only dropped it down to 4 because I read her other books, and I personally felt like this one fell short in comparison to what I now know that she's capable of writing. I loved the exploration of grief, identity, relationships, the concept of somebody's grief being enough to basically bring his, I can't remember his wife or his fiance, but his lover's world into the real world so that he can live within it and try to finish the story is so beautiful. And it reminds me of a Supernatural episode where these people created this blog and so many people saw it and believed it that it essentially made the monster that they were blogging about real or ghost. So I love the exploration of grief, loved the characters. Also, sometimes when I'm reading romance books, the male characters kind of piss me off because I feel like I'm just reading like a recorded objectification of their lovers or of their love interests. And I can't remember anything that stuck out to me when I read it. He just really gave yearner and very emotionally involved in everything. And I love that so much. I love when the men are written to have emotions. Men who yearn earn, and he's a yearner for his dead wife, for the female main character. And I love the complication kind of that and the way it was talked about at the end, and it wasn't just him kind of like moving on and being like, oh, okay, fuck the dead hoe, let me get with this girl. Like, there was so much that went into it. I found the premise very intriguing. Like I said, it reminded me of a Supernatural episode. I do think it could have been like maybe better explained or better executed. I'm not exactly sure how, which is why I didn't dock it more than 1 point, because if I can't even figure out how, but I know what to expect from Ashley Poston's writing now, and I know I didn't have that thought while reading her other books. It was still really interesting, and I still really enjoyed the book, but I do just wish that could have been a little bit more expanded upon. 2, I read The Gilded Cage, which is the second installment in the Prison Healer series by Lynette Noni. Here's the cover. When I first read this book, I think I gave it a 4 stars or 4.5, but I have since dropped it down to 3.5 for a couple of basic reasons. One, it was just giving kind of recycled basic fantasy story. Obviously, with so many people writing books, we're going to have stories that are similar and similar, I don't know, premises, etc. But usually there's something that makes it stand out. And there was just really nothing about this series that made it stand out. I didn't finish it after I finished this book, which is like, I did really enjoy this book, and it was significantly better than the first one in my opinion when it came to pacing and action. But I hated the ending. I was like, there's no way I'm reading about her going back to whatever so and so. Like, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I was like, I'm not reading that. We spent a whole book getting out of this place, and now we're back. I can't do it. I do love elemental magic. I want to read more elemental magic books. I think it's really intriguing because there's so many limitations and rules and blah blah blah. I don't know, there was something lacking in making it stand out in the world building for me, but I could see why people would really enjoy this series. So by no means, please don't like not read it, but it just wasn't for me. I will say though, I loved the romance. I loved the way it was written. Sorry, my hands are stained red because I re-dyed my hair last night. I loved the romance and the character relationships in general. They did make me feel a lot, which is really, really cool. I really love getting emotional when I'm reading because I feel like I'm just so well connected. And this book was very well paced, like I said. In comparison to the first one, in my opinion, this one was very well paced. There was a lot going on and there was a lot to think about, but not in the like overwhelming too much way. 3, Addicted to You by Christy and Rebecca Ritchie, I think. Here's the cover. It is the first one in this series, and I have not read another one from this series since, but not because it was bad, just because I haven't. I have other things I want to read more. I did give this book 4.5 stars. First of all, I love a real friends to lovers situation, and that is a perfect way to describe Lo and Lily. Is that her name? It's been so long, I honestly can't remember. But I love a true friends to lovers, and when it's done right, and it made me so happy. I thought all the relationships were very intriguing, and I thought they set themselves up really well for the next installment of the book and for the parts about other characters that we were being introduced to, because it's like, I think it's 3 books about them, then 3 books about the next sister, and 3 books about another sister. They really set themselves up well for that. They built it up perfectly, and there was stuff happening in this book that I imagine we'll get to read about in the next characters kind of little trios, and I think that's really cool. I love when we have a interconnecting series and things are happening at the same time. I don't like when it's like in order, because that just doesn't feel realistic for me and it makes it less immersive. But when we've got this relationship doing this while this relationship's doing that, I don't know, I find it very immersive as I'm getting further into the story. I also thought the characters were really, really well developed. I thought all of them had interesting personalities and quirks. However, I will say certain parts about their family and stuff like that just kind of were cheesy to me. I don't know, it took something away, but not a whole lot. It was still rated 4.5 stars. That's a very good rating. But yeah, I really want to read some more of this series going into 2026. Next, this is my lowest rated book this year. It is called Stealing Sunshine by Hannah Cowan. I'll put the cover here. I have had this rated at 1 star since the beginning, and I feel so mean when I give poor ratings, but let me just explain. Personally, I felt like this book was more tropes just kind of knitted together than it was an actual story. I was like, okay, well, there's that trope and that trope and that trope, but I don't feel like it's cohesive, and it was cheesy. It was executed in a way that was poorly written. I feel like cheesy is the wrong word to use. It was just poorly written. The characters were poorly written. I didn't like the dialogue. I didn't like their personalities. Like, I just had a really, really hard time with it. And it was the perfect example of when I see grumpy sunshine written in a way that pisses me off. Like, I don't like it. But I do think that this author has the room to grow. I think she could be good. There's potential in her writing. And I would read more to see her grow, because I've done that with authors before where I've gone back to their first book and read, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at how much they grew, even though I didn't necessarily enjoy the first one. So I would read more of her books, but this one just really was a miss for me. I am not a fan of miscommunication, but it's unavoidable in the romance genre. If you're going to do the miscommunication trope, it needs to make sense and be well done, and this one was not. But I would read more of her books in the future just to watch her grow, because another author this happened with was Hannah Grace. I gave Icebreaker like a 2-star review, I think. I really did not like that book. And then Daydream came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing all these great things. I did not look at the author's name of Daydream or anything. I didn't connect the dots that was the same author. I read it, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I think I rated it 5 stars last year. And then I finally connected the dots, and I was like, there's no way that the person that wrote Icebreaker wrote Daydream. The improvement in her writing and relationships was so vast, and I honestly think Hannah Cowan could do that too. So I will be reading more of her books in the future just to be able to see her improve, because I firmly believe she will. 5 was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. So I gave this book 5 stars. I'm a huge V.E. Schwab fan. I literally just did a review on The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue as part of my book miss on TikTok. But Vicious, oh my gosh, all of her books are so different to me. Like, from what I've read so far, everyone is so vastly different, and that's real. I love that so much. Vicious was a perfect example of my favorite kinds of morally gray characters, and it was also very nostalgic in a sense and reminiscent for me of like X-Men and the Avengers in some aspects. I just loved it. I loved the way that powers came about. I loved the different kinds of powers, and I loved the way the characters reacted to each other. the friendships, the tension, the low-key homoerotic subtext. It was not really subtext. I think we all know, and it was glaring obvious, but not to them. And it was just so well written. And the fact that this kind of tension just fuels the entire book. Oh my god. It was also really interesting. Like, this book, I don't remember exactly when it was released. I'll have to double check. But it really did make me think about things such as morality and zealotry today in our current political climate, because the way that Eli Evers, I think is what he went by, Eli Evers, treats morality and treats himself and how he wants to cleanse the earth of these people really does make me think of a lot of things currently happening in the world. And I love when authors kind of explore those situations. And I also love when a book isn't written during the year stuff is happening, but it still relates. And love might be the wrong word, because obviously I hate that this shit is still going on and still happening, but I just think I think speculative fantasy really helps people see things from an unbiased point of view and kind of makes them think a little bit more and hopefully draw those connections to the real world. But obviously in the bookish community, we have seen that lacks in some areas. Finally, I love the depiction of the way that characters grow and change, and you really can't just categorize somebody as this or that, because they'll make different decisions based on the pressure they're under or the how they've watched everything unfold. Specifically, I'm talking about the little girl's older sister in this aspect, because I was really surprised by some of the decisions she made later on in the book. Overall, 5 stars. Continue to solidify V.E. Schwab as an auto-buy author for me, and I cannot wait to review more of her books. Number 6, I read Dreadful by Caitlin Rosakis. This is the cover. I picked this book up last October. I was looking around and I was like, I want something that gives Halloween. So I picked up Dreadful by Caitlin Rosakis and Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Gillig. Not Rachel Gillig. I don't remember it's Rachel something, I believe. Anyways, I picked this up as a Halloween book and I didn't read it until January, which I regret. It was so cute and it wasn't necessarily Halloween-y, but it fit the vibes. Anyways, I gave Dreadful 4 stars. 1, it was so funny. It reads like a sitcom. I was cackling the entire way through. And it wasn't I don't know, it was just funny. It was kind of nice to read a book without such a heavy focus on romance and stuff. We just genuinely got to see relationships blossom. And it asked a lot of questions about identity, forgiveness, friendship. Who would you be if you could start over again tomorrow, essentially? And what choices would you make differently? I only docked it 1 star because I felt like it was lacking in some areas. I didn't really understand the world building of it. And it was a little bit cheesy, but still very enjoyable. So 4 stars. I can't wait to read more of her books. I think there's another one I keep seeing at Books A Million that I'm going to buy once I get through a bit more of my physical TBR. Okay, last but not least, Assistant to the Villain, which I gave 4 stars. I have not read the rest of the series since, just because there's other things I wanted to read more, but I really I devoured this book. I think I read it in 1 sitting. Similarly to Dreadful, it was very funny, very chaotic. I loved the characters, especially the main character. I love a soft FMC in fantasy, if that makes sense. Sometimes we get so many of these strong women, which is great still, but I love a soft female main character who's also strong, if that makes sense. She's still sweet, funny, she wants romance, but she can be a bad bitch if and when she needs to. She doesn't hate dresses and hate everything considered girly or feminine. But that was one of the things I loved the most about Evie. Holy plot twist at the end. I thought sometimes plot twists are done really poorly by authors, and it's okay, what were we trying to accomplish? But genuinely, it was so well written in and so thought out and well executed. When I went back and I was looking for the clues and I found all of them, I was like, oh my god, this is insane. This was an example of a book that does Grumpy Sunshine right. Usually, I've not read a book that I enjoyed the Grumpy Sunshine dynamic in a long time, and she did it so well. It was just so funny. It was so charming, and it was so cute. I loved it so much. Those are the 7 books that I read in the month of January. So I will see you guys again tomorrow for the books I read in February. And I think I read 9 in February, so we'll have even more. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. I post a lot of book content, writing content, and also life content. I've done a couple of vlogs over the last couple of days for Vlogmas, but I would love for you guys to join me. If you want to see more of my short form content, you can always check me out on TikTok. It is coffee.with.chloe with 2 E's. And I will see you guys tomorrow.